Prepare for the next statement on copyright and AI. Statement on copyright and AI, and I call the Minister Chris Bryant.
And now for something completely different. Madam Deputy Speaker, with permission, I wish to make a statement regarding our launch of a public consultation on copyright and artificial intelligence. The United Kingdom has a proud tradition of creativity and of technical innovation, from our film and television sectors to video games, publishing, music, design and fashion. Our creative industries are a cornerstone of our economy and our creative identity. They bring £125 billion worth to the economy and employ over 2.3 million people. James Bond, the Beatles, Vivienne Westwood, Adele, Vera, Bridget Riley, Tomb Raider, the Sugar Babes, Football Manager, Paddington, Paul Smith, they are all part of an immensely valuable British industry. The creative industries are therefore central to our economic future. We are determined to help them flourish. The same is true of artificial intelligence, both as an enabler of other industries, including the creative industries, and as a sector in its own right. The Government is determined to capitalise on the UK's position of strength in the global AI sector and will soon publish the AI Opportunities Action Plan, which will set out an ambitious roadmap to unlock AI's transformative potential across our economy and public services. Both the creative industries and AI sectors are at the heart of our industrial strategy. They are also both increasingly interlinked. AI is already being used across the creative industries, from music and film production to publishing, architecture and design. It has transformed post-production, for instance. And as of September 2024, more than 38% of creative industries businesses said that they have used AI technologies, with nearly 50% using AI to improve their business operations. Strong copyright laws have been the bedrock of the creative industries. But as things stand, the application of UK copyright law to the training of AI models is fiercely disputed. Rights holders, including musicians, record labels, artists and news publishers, are finding it difficult to control the use of their works to train AI models, and they want and need a greater ability to manage such activity and to be paid for it. Likewise, AI developers, including UK-based startups, are finding it difficult to navigate copyright law and complain that with such legal uncertainty they are unable to train leading models in the UK. The status quo cannot continue. It risks limiting investment, innovation and growth in the creative industries, the AI sector and the wider economy. Neither side can afford to wait for expensive litigation, either here or in the US, to clarify the law, not least because courts in different jurisdictions may come to different conclusions and individual cases may not provide clarity across the sector. Nor can we simply rely on voluntary cooperation. That is why we think government must take proactive and thoughtful action that works for all parties. The consultation published yesterday therefore sets out clearly that the Government's objectives on this issue are to, firstly, enhance right holders' control of their material and their ability to be paid for its use. Secondly, to support wide access to high-quality material to drive development of leading AI models in the UK. And thirdly, to secure greater transparency from AI developers to build trust with creators, creative industries and consumers. In short, Madam Deputy Speaker, we want to provide legal certainty for all and secure enhanced licensing of content. There are three key aspects to our consultation. Firstly, increased transparency from AI developers. This includes the content they have used in training their large language models, how they acquire it, and any content generated by their models. In other words, consumers should know whether a book or a song has been generated by a person or by artificial intelligence, and whose content helped generate it in the first place. Secondly, a new system of rights reservation, whereby rights holders can withhold their content from being used unless and until it has been licensed. Thirdly, an exception to copyright law for text and data mining, where rights holders have licensed their content or otherwise chosen not to reserve their rights. This would improve access to content by AI developers, whilst allowing right holders to control how their content is used for AI training. These measures are contingent upon each other. Progressed together, we believe this package of measures could enhance the ability of rights holders to protect their material and seek payment for its use through increased licensing, whilst also enabling AI developers to trade leading models in the UK in full compliance with UK law. It will, however, only work, Madam Deputy Speaker, if there is a proper system of rights reservation in place. I would urge everyone to read and respond to the consultation document and to examine the safeguards we are proposing for rights holders. I would especially urge both AI developers and rights holders to work with us to identify a simple, practical, proportionate and effective technical system of rights reservation without which the whole package will not work. We are conscious that the UK does not operate in a hermetically sealed bubble, and this provides its own challenges. If we were to adopt a too tight regime based on proactive, explicit permission, the danger is that international developers would continue to train their models using UK content accessed overseas, but may not be able to deploy them in the UK. As AI becomes increasingly powerful and widely adopted globally, this could significantly disadvantage sectors across our economy, including the creative industries, and sweep the rug from underneath British AI developers. That is why, as well as taking this approach in the UK, we are committed to international engagement and recognise the importance of international alignment. This consultation is a joint effort between the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology, the Department for Culture, Media and Sport and the Intellectual Property Office, between my fellow Minister, the wonderful member for Enfield North, who has responsibility for AI, and me with responsibility for the creative industries. This is not an academic exercise. The consultation is absolutely clear that we will not implement these changes unless and until we are confident we have a practicable and effective plan which meets our objectives of enhancing rights holders' control, providing legal certainty around AI firms' access to content, and transparency for rights holders and AI developers of all sizes. My fellow Minister and I will be engaging directly with a wide range of people in an attempt to find practical and technical solutions to this question. In conclusion, Madam Deputy Speaker, many people have called this question an existential one for the creative industries. They are right. We see this consultation, therefore, as a pivotal opportunity to ensure that sustained growth and innovation for the UK's AI sector continues to benefit creators, businesses and consumers alike, while preserving the values and principles that make our creative industries so unique. We believe that there is a potential win-win solution, and that the UK, with its strong traditions of copyright and technological innovation, is in a unique place to deliver it. I commend this statement to the House.
I call the Shadow Minister, Dr. Ben Spencer.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Minister for advance sight of his statement today. Britain is a world leader in the creative industries, from music to art to literature, our free and independent media. As a Shadow Decent Minister, while we need science to live, the arts make life worth living. The UK also has a world-leading tech sector. The invention of generative artificial intelligence provides many opportunities, but particularly for the creative industries, the data mining behind these models can breach copyright. It presents challenges around authenticity when used to mimic artists and creative works, and there is a lack of legal clarity around the status of computer-generated work. These are issues we must tackle and respond to. Britain's creative industries employ nearly 2.4 million people and contribute 125 billion to our economy. But we must also recognise that we are part of a global technological ecosystem. If we fall behind in supporting our artificial intelligence industry, it will move elsewhere. Let us be clear, the genie is out of the bottle and the world is scrabbling to respond to it. As always, there is a balance to be struck to ensure we take the opportunities on offer to revolutionise working practices, to deliver productivity through technological innovation. So we welcome work and investigation in this area, both on the role of regulation and the options available. Given the delays it has taken for him to bring this forwards, he must recognise that this is a complex area to regulate, especially given the international and domestic interconnectivities. Sadly, rather than taking an open position as an honest broker, it is clear today that the government has already picked one side of this debate. His preference for a data mining opt-out for the creative industries will place extra burden on creators to protect their intellectual property. Given the magnitude of the impact of his proposals, why has he released his consultation now, just before the Christmas break, and limited to only 10 weeks? So, when I'm benefiting from UK creative talent over the Christmas period, whether listening to the Sugar Babes or watching Daniel Craig as James Bond, Madam Deputy Speaker, Bond was blonde. The creative sector will be responding to a consultation that their livelihoods depend on. Will he extend the consultation? Can the Minister explain how the opt-out will ensure protection to creators? And informing this position, can the Minister also inform the House how many times he's already met representatives from the technology and creative sectors, both domestically and internationally? The Minister should be well aware, following 5 months of falling business confidence, that one thing businesses dislike is uncertainty. But this announcement of an opt-out represents nothing but uncertainty for the creative industries. Rather than prioritising their need to be seen to be doing something, the government needs to start learning to do things right.
James Bond, Minister Chris Bryant.
Thank you very much. Fortunately, Madam Deputy Speaker, I actually asked ChatGPT what the Minister would ask me. And it was pretty much right. Yes, but actually some of the questions from ChatGPT were rather more to the point. I'll deal with the serious points that he made. First of all, he raised the point about mimicking artists. That's one of the things that we're consulting about. There's a perfectly legitimate question about whether we should take further action in this country. Tennessee has acted. It's got its Elvis Act. California and a couple of other states in the United States of America have acted on this already, and it's a perfectly legitimate question whether we should move in that same direction. Likewise, he referred to computer-generated works. You probably know that under Section 9(3) of the Copyright Act 1988, there is provision which seems to guarantee the right to a computer-generated work for to be copyright protected. That isn't the case in most other countries, and you could argue that developments in recent copyright law on the nature of originality would suggest that unless there's a human being directly involved in the creation of the work, there shouldn't be copyright protection, and we've suggested a direction of travel, which is that we would get rid of Section 9(3) of the Copyright Act. He said that we have delayed bringing this forward. Well, I merely point out to him that for quite a long time the previous government said that it was going to bring forward a voluntary system, bringing the two sides together, and nothing came from that whatsoever. So I'm afraid that feels a bit of a cheat. But the thing that I really want to contest is this idea that we have sided with one side or another. There is a legitimate problem here. Which is that AI companies don't think that, and the creative industries are at loggerheads in the courts in several different jurisdictions on several different points, which are moot at the moment. We don't think that simply standing by the present situation will suffice, because the danger is that in 2 or 3 years' time, all of UK content will have been scraped by one or other AI developing company somewhere else in the world, if there's no legal clarity in the UK. And I would like to be able to bring all of this home, so that AI operators can work in this country with security under the law, using UK copyright, which has been licensed and paid for, because I think that could potentially be another revenue stream for creators in this country. He asks about extending the consultation. I'm not going to extend the consultation. We want to crack on with this piece of work. He only 2 minutes before in his said that we were delaying bringing this forward, and then he said that we should delay further. I think it's time that we seize hold of this. I certainly will meet with a large number of people. Myself and my honourable friend, the Minister, have met I mean, we will be providing a list because it'll be in our transparency returns, published, I think, very, very soon, of all the different organisations that we've met with. But it must run to dozens, if not hundreds. And, of course, there are different views. But I want to make this absolutely clear. The three measures that we're talking about, transparency of inputs and outputs for AI developers will have to provide, and the provisions in relation to creators being able to reserve their rights, and then the exception for data mining for commercial purposes. These three things are contingent upon each other. And we will not move forward with such a package unless there is a technical solution to the question of how people can reserve their rights. I looked online this weekend to see what it would be like to try to reserve your rights, pretending to be various different musicians and artists. It is at present phenomenally difficult and complicated. Other members may have questions about this. That's what's got to change. There has to be a proper rights reservation system which is easy to use, practicable, and enables creators either individually or collectively to assert their rights and maintain control of them.
Yeah. Select Committee Chair Onwurah.
The UK is in a unique position, second in terms of the creative industries globally, and in the top three in terms of AI innovation globally. So getting the right solution to protecting and supporting our intellectual property while supporting and incentivizing AI innovation is uniquely important to our cultural and economic life. And as a prior regulator and chartered engineer, I welcome the Minister's decision to go with regulatory technology as the solution. Challenging the tech sector to come up with technology which will ensure reservation of rights and transparency of inputs to large language models will ensure that we can have both of those critical things. And the tech sector too often doesn't spend as much time protecting people and property as it does maximising profit. But the language in the consultation is a bit vague, and the Minister talked about arriving at a plan rather than a solution. So will it be absolutely clear that any text and data mining exemption is contingent on the technology being deliverable and implementable and working, and if the technology fails, then the exemption fails?
Minister.
I welcome the Chair of the Select Committee to her place, and she's 100% right. You cannot have the text and data mining exemption for commercial purposes unless there is a proper rights reservation system in place. I don't know whether she's tried to look at this issue of rights reservation. It's terribly complicated. You can use the robots exclusion protocol, except that's rather out of date and it's avoided by quite a lot of players in the market. It's very, very complicated, and it also only applies to your own personal website, whereas your creative input might not be on your website, it might be on somebody completely different's website. I tried to create a Bridget Riley using an AI bot over the weekend. Now, it had obviously trained itself on some Bridget Rileys, but it was a shockingly bad Bridget Riley. It was nowhere near the territory. Now, I wanted to ask the question, had it used Bridget Riley to learn how to make a Bridget Riley-like picture? And if so, did Bridget Riley receive any compensation? Now, there's another website that you can go to, which is called Have I Been Trained? Which I guess Bridget Riley could go to if she wanted to, but that is phenomenally complicated, and that's precisely what has got to change. The AI companies have got to come up with a technical solution to this, whether they produce music or text or wherever it may be. Without that, we won't be able to progress.
It's always easy if the Minister is looking at the chair, so we can ensure that we're sticking to time limits. I come to the Liberal Democrat spokesperson, Victoria Collins.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The UK can and should be a global leader in AI innovation, and I welcome this consultation. Investment and support for technological innovation will be a crucial pillar of growing our economy and solving the problems of today and tomorrow. But likewise, our world-leading creative industries must remain a growth priority. In my constituency, I see the invaluable contribution that the film industry makes to the local and national economy, driving growth while producing top-quality content. We might not have James Bond, but we have had Robin Hood. We've also had Deadpool, and recently we had Wicked filmed just over the border. I'll get back to them on that. But the creative industries have been clear. Failure to apply existing copyright laws to AI model training presents an existential threat. They are being asked to allow their output to get used to train models, which could be in direct competition with themselves, and we must get this balance right. There is no uncertainty in existing laws. UK law is totally clear that commercial organisations must license the data to train their large language models. The announcement that the government favours a text and data mine exemption will be deeply concerning to the creative industries. The issue was thought to be settled under the previous government, so what assessment has the government made of the likely impact of their favoured option on the creative industries? The exception here seems to be that small businesses in the creative industry should welcome an opt-out system in exchange for vague commitments to transparency. So can the Minister lay out what successful, workable examples of an opt-out system he has looked at? Can he give us examples of where this approach has successfully protected creatives? And why has the option of an opt-in not been included in the consultation? As has been said previously, the creative industry adds $125 billion a year in gross value to the economy and goes hand in hand with our digital economy. It's essential that the government supports innovation in AI, but it cannot come at the cost of our world-leading creative industries.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I will look at you to make sure that I don't go over time, but I would point out that Wicked is far too long a movie. Look, I want to make it clear, I don't think there is a difference between, or a complete separation between AI and the creative industries. AI is a creative industry in many regards. The tech sector is an important collaboration between the two, and even Sir Paul McCartney has said that he's used AI to write some of his most recent work, or to help him write some of his most recent work. The honourable member said that this was all settled under the previous government. Nothing was settled in this territory under the previous government. It was simply left hanging in the air, which is why we're trying to take action. She asked, are there any successful examples of opt-out? No, there aren't. That's precisely the point that I'm trying to make, that it is remarkably difficult at the moment for individuals or for organisations, whether it be a record label or an individual artist or a photographer or whatever it may be, to protect their rights, and that's what needs to change. There has been some licensing. Some newspapers have licensed content with OpenAI. Sony Music has tried to write to all the different AI operators that it knows to try and say that all of their work that they protect is copyrighted and is not to be used. But I'm not sure that that process, which is very, very piecemeal, is enough to build the control that we want for rights holders to be able to continue with, but also enable AI to develop in a fruitful way in the United Kingdom.
Dr. Rupa.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I welcome this consultation and my honourable friend's recognition that we and this sort of stuff does not exist in a bubble. I wondered what he made of the US No Fakes Act, currently going through the House of Representatives. It protects personality and likeness of human writers and artists against misappropriation. And he said that he is in meetings mode. I wondered if he knows what's happening to the consultation on live event ticketing, and I'm happy to meet him. It'd be great to meet him about my private member's bill, the anti-Oasis-style scam rip-off ticketing bill that seems to be being squashed by Friday filibustering so far.
I think my honourable friend, who is on the Select Committee, took advantage of the fact that there was a change in the chair to get away with asking a question which has absolutely nothing to do with this consultation whatsoever. Just to say to her on live ticketing that I'm absolutely certain that the government will have something to say soon. The word soon means precisely what I choose it to mean. Just on publicity rights, she's quite right. This is a significant question which we ask in the consultation. There is an argument for bringing in legislation in the UK. California, as I said, has a digital replicas law. Tennessee has the Elvis Act, which stands for Eliminating Limits on the Voice's Intrinsic Sovereignty Act, which I think was an attempt to cram that into the term Elvis. And she's right that the US Copyright Office is arguing for a federal digital replicas law. Now, we might want to go down that route as well. I would urge her and perhaps the Select Committee to consider this matter, and maybe they'd like to provide some advice in response to the consultation as well.
Sir Julian Lewis.
I'm tempted to invite the Minister to perhaps consult the magnificent Taylor Swift, who, apart from all her many other talents, has shown herself pretty shrewd when it comes to preserving the copyright of her own material. But he actually puts his finger on the key weakness in all this. No matter what sort of regime you set up, and no matter how many countries you try and get involved in this, surely it will only take one rogue jurisdiction to allow a machine to be scraped from everybody else's material, and then the ability of the internet for everyone to access it will undermine the regime. And in that way, we face the danger that shake it off becomes rip it off.
Chris Bryant.
Well, no, you see, I disagree. I saw him nodding earlier when I was talking about we don't want to pull the rug under the feet of the UK AI adopters. But the UK is in a very specific position. We've got probably the best copyright laws of any country in the world because of the way that they've developed. It's partly thanks to Hogarth and Dickens and many others over the years that we've ended up with strong copyright legislation. But we also have a very strong body of intellectual property in this country, which is enormously valuable potentially to AI operators. So we stand in a very specific position. Now, there is an argument that you can train it elsewhere in another jurisdiction, but the moment you bring it into the UK, then you still fall foul of, or you still fall under UK legislation. Now, he's also right. It's not Taylor Swift that I've consulted, but I asked an AI company to come up with a song in the manner of Adele. Oh, I still feel you deep in my soul, even though you left me out here on my own. The love we had, it's slipping through my hands, but I can't forget, I still don't understand. You're gone, but your memory's all I see, and in the silence, it's you haunting me, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's sort of Adele, isn't it? But it's not Adele. And my question goes, so does Adele know that her material has been used? Does her record label know that her lyrics have been used to create that? Because it's sort of in the territory, but it's not right. I think we can get this right in the UK and provide leadership to the world. That's what we should strive for.
I am just going to make the point. I can see that this is very technical and quite complicated and might require long answers. I'm not sure it required that level of input from not Adele. James Friend.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I welcome the Minister's statement. Could he just clarify what is the difference between his term, rights reservation, and previous reports of the government's preference to an opt-out system? Opt-out systems have already been called out and considered unjust by our creators. There are AI leaders that recognise the need for fair licensing. What assurances can the government provide to support both human and AI innovation? And does the Minister agree with his creative industry Acton that respecting copyright would see the introduction of an opt-in system as essential?
Well, you see, I think, again, this is another false dichotomy that's being presented to us between opt-in and opt-out, and that's why we've landed on the term rights reservation, because I want a lot of material that is out there is not copyright, either because it's long out of copyright. Copyright law in most works lasts for 70 years after the death or after the publication of the death of the author or the first publication of the item of the work, and lots of material. Some artists have categorically decided not to retain their copyright. Tom Lehrer, the author of many songs, satirical songs from the 1980s and 90s, such as The Vatican Rag and The Massacres in Tango, he has deliberately surrendered his copyright. So this is a world where we want to make sure that the vast majority of rights holders, whether they be the record label or the individual photographer or the artist or whatever, has the right of control over their copyright, whether it's used, how it's used, and if it's going to be used, that they are remunerated. So I would urge my honourable friend, who I know has a great interest in this on the Select Committee, to make sure that this false dichotomy between opt-in and opt-out is abandoned. We talk about rights reservation because then opt-out might look remarkably like opt-in.
Sarah Olney.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In July of this year, it was revealed that 173,000 YouTube videos, including material created by globally recognised British musicians, news channels and artists, had been scraped into a dataset used to train AI models. Content from over 40,000 creatives has been found in this dataset, and yet I don't believe that consent was sought from a single impacted creator to use their copyrighted works. Madam Deputy Speaker, it's clear that AI offers a fantastic opportunity for our economy, but it must supplement and grow industries rather than replace them wholesale. Creatives deserve to be compensated for their work. AI companies will happily pay the electricity bill for their data centres and wages for their staff, so why should they not also pay to access the creative content on which their models depend?
Well, I completely agree with her. Of course they should pay for the content which they're using. I think she's referring to Lion 5B, which was the data set that was produced in Germany. Now, interestingly, it was and this has been decided by a court in Hamburg, that it is already covered by the exemption for data and text mining for non-commercial purposes for research. But of course, then subsequently, it's been used not just for research, but for other purposes. And that's precisely the kind of area where there is a legal dispute. And that's why we are trying to provide legal certainty in the UK as to what you can use and what you can't use, when you can use it, and how we can make sure that people's rights, their creative rights, are protected.
Gordon McKee.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This is an important issue everywhere around the world, but it's particularly important here in the UK because our economy has, as the Minister has set out, incredible strengths both in the creative industries and more recently in AI development. And I think it's important to note that a lot of the technology that powers these models was pioneered by DeepMind here in London. So I wondered if the Minister agree with me that getting the balance right on this is critical to the Government's mission of delivering economic growth.
Both these sectors are part of our industrial strategy, and we have to make sure that both of them are able to flourish. And that's why I know there will be people in the creative industries who are worried about what we're saying. I fully understand that, but I want them to understand that this package comes as a whole, and we're not... I think it was... I've forgotten his name now, Ed Newton-Rex, who was formerly of Stability AI. He wrote in his Substack today that he was concerned that this government would proceed without actually checking whether a system of rights reservation worked. We won't. We will only proceed if there is a proper system of rights reservation. But there are an awful lot of very clever people who work in AI in this country. I'd like somebody to set a bunch of them on specifically to work out a simple, practicable, technical solution to the question of rights reservation. Then, I think, everybody has a chance of prospering in the UK.
John Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As a former journalist, I'm intimately familiar with the gold standard copyright laws that we have in this country. But does the Minister agree with the News Media Association, who are very concerned about the current situation that their members face, where things are already being scraped and taken into these AI machines? They, to quote the actual fabulous sugar babes, they would like you to push the button on the existing laws and protect their copyright now. Can we have action now rather than this rather vague and woolly consultation?
Minister.
Well, no, because this is a genuinely thorny question which needs a technical solution. Government isn't going to write the technical solution. It has to be something that comes from the two sides sitting down to work out together how we can get to a situation that benefits everybody. He's absolutely right about the newspapers. Some newspapers have already licensed material to, I think, Associated Newspapers have. I think the Washington Post has. Several others have already done so. I mean, it would be interesting to see whether the income that those companies are receiving is flowing through to the journalists who produced the copyright material in the first place. But maybe that's part of the rights reservation system that we need to look at as well.
Samantha Niblett.
Madam Deputy Speaker, both the Culture and the Science, Innovation and Tech Secretary's commitment to ensuring creators can control how their content is used and be paid for it is very welcome. But some creators are concerned that the rights reservation framework proposed by government will not allow them to assert control. So what steps is the Minister taking to ensure that a new framework takes account of these concerns?
Minister.
Well, I hope I've been trying, and that maybe I've not yet succeeded, but to make it absolutely clear that I personally, and neither the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, nor the Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Technology, or my honourable friends sitting here, would bring forward for legislation something which undermined the copyright rights of rights holders in the creative industries. We simply would not do so. What we're trying to do is to push both sides to a place where we can create a new system, which will probably be new to the United Kingdom and might be one of our gifts to the world, of a proper system of rights reservation, which is simple, practical, practicable. And I would say this is not a second reading debate today. This is simply a consultation, and I would urge all those who have concerns to voice those in response to the consultation.
Mike Martin.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This is a very timely statement because I've been conversing with Anne, one of my constituents, and Anne is a visual artist and a dress designer, and she has exactly the concerns that you are setting out to try and talk about.
Not you. He is setting out.
I beg your pardon, Madam Deputy Speaker. Exactly the things that he, the Minister, is trying to look at in this consultation. I will be recommending to her that she contributes to it. But he hits upon the nub of the problem, which is the international element of this. And that, to me, the key example of that is China. China is a country that has a history of stealing IP, and China is a key player in the international AI competition. So genuinely, and I wish the Minister well in this, how is it that we can thread the needle that if this consultation leads to a bill that gets implemented, how do we not avoid not only the copyright of our creatives being stolen by Chinese AI firms, but also handing the AI advantage to China?
I mean, I think China is the problem in lots of different cases. I'm not particularly sure that it is in this case. I mean, it is more difficult for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle and all the rest of it than for me to get a practicable solution, but that is what we are determined to achieve. I thought for one moment when he referred to Anne that this was his AI assistant called Anne. But the truth of the matter is we will all have AI assistants. Very soon. Most of the time when you Google anything these days, the first version comes up because of AI. So it's a part of our lives, and we can't pretend that away. What I would like is for UK companies and startups to be developing AI in a way that recognises and accepts that the content that many of them are desperate to use is content that needs to be paid for.
Kanishka Narayan.
Can I firstly point to the right honourable friend I have on the front benches here, that my disappointment that his ChatGPT prompt yielded Sugar Babes and Football Manager, but not the more enduring institution of Gavin and Stacey from the Vale of Glamorgan, but I know that's an omission ChatGPT will correct. Madam Deputy Speaker, this is a critical debate because the path to prosperity for nations has to be a path through technology. And in that context, the primary question on my mind is whether or not the right honourable friend on the front bench can set out plans as to how data accuracy and completeness in the creative sector can underpin the government's wider AI action plan and ultimately drive national growth.
Minister.
Well, he makes a very good point about Gavin and Stacey, and I look forward to the Christmas special, though I would merely point out that since H from Steps is from the Rhondda, that Steps have a lot more to offer, really. He lives in the Vale of Glamorgan, yes, well, some people have greatness thrust upon them. He makes an important point about data, because data will become an increasing part of our economic resilience in this country and our economic strength. That's another part of my responsibility if I've got my DSIT hat on, and I very much look forward to the data bill coming through the Commons in the new year once it's finished in another place, because I think that is an opportunity for us to create smart data which will release a great deal more economic potential and productivity in the UK.
Jill German.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. UK Music describes copyright as the foundation of the music industry, providing a means for creators to monetise their work, an incentive for investment in talent, as well as giving us, the public, an opportunity to enjoy the fruits of creativity. It's important that we get this right. So, can the Minister set out how this government will work with both developers and rights holders to make the most of this groundbreaking technology while still protecting artists' work?
Well, number one, I will have endless meetings with an awful lot of people from the creative industries to make sure that all of their concerns are recognised. And I would pay tribute to UK Music, who've already been in touch several times in the last 24 hours to express their views on this subject. And indeed, quite interestingly, of course, copyright works differently in different media. So it works differently in music from in publishing and in newspapers and so on. And that's one of the things that we need to take hold of very clearly when we take anything further forward. I also had a very successful meeting this afternoon with people in talking about introducing a levy, a voluntary levy on tickets and arena gigs to make sure that we've got money to support grassroots music in this country. And I hope very much that we'll be able to make a significant announcement on that in the new year.
Paul Wall.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I welcome this statement today? The Minister refers to Ed Newton-Rex, who gave evidence to our Select Committee only recently on just this very subject, and it's clear that creatives are deeply worried about any suggestion of an opt-out when it comes to this solution. But that's why I welcome his commitment today at the dispatch box to making any progress contingent on a technological solution on rights reservation, because ultimately, isn't that the way to square the circle that this government always is trying to square, which is of economic growth and innovation, but also protecting workers' rights?
Minister.
100% right, and squaring the circle is what we're in the business of, and sometimes that's not an easy thing for government to do, because not all the levers lie with government and with legislation. But to be absolutely clear, it is we know that we need to provide legal certainty in this space. That means almost certainly that we will want to introduce legislation. We're not going to introduce legislation until such time as all the different aspects that I've already referred to, namely transparency on inputs and on outputs, in terms of control of rights reservation for rights holders, and the text and data mining exemption for commercial work. All of those things are contingent upon one another, and we will not be bringing forward legislation in that sphere until all of those things hang together. And I think that was the last question, Madam Deputy Speaker. So have yourself a very Merry Christmas. Allowed to sing at the dispatch box.
I think the Minister would be well advised not to sing at the dispatch box. But can I thank him for his comprehensive responses this afternoon, which brings us